Welcome to Movies We Like, part of the True Story FM Entertainment Podcast Network. I'm Andy Nelson, and that over there is Pete Wright.
I am Pete Wright.
On today's episode, we have invited cinematographer Shane Hurlbut to talk about Inglourious Basterds, a movie he likes. Shane, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. Really, I love being able to talk about movies that we love and just kind of dig into the idiosyncrasies of why that struck a chord.
I gotta say, Shane, this is every now and again somebody comes through this show who I don't realize until Andy tells me, hey, this is who we're talking about. And I look at IMDb and I realize, holy crap, I'm a giant fan of this person. You have lensed some of my very favorite movies. Thank you. I'm so glad you are here and that we can talk about, your current work and whether or not you were screamed at by Christian Bale.
Of course, we'll dig into everything.
The question on everybody's lips.
That's the world needs to know.
Every single time.
Oh my gosh, so funny. Well, let's kind of jump back all the way to the beginning and start how you got started. Like, what was it that triggered you to say, working behind a camera, this is something I think I might want to do?
Oh my God. So, you know how you have those kind of light bulbs that go off, or that aha moment that literally changes the whole trajectory of your career? Well, that's what I had. I went to Emerson College, and going back even further than that, I grew up on a farm in upstate New York. My dad and I were the sole, employees of the farm. He also was a professor's assistant at Cornell University. So he kind of farmed after he got done at work. So after I got done with my sports or whatever from school, I would hop on a tractor and I would do that till 11 o'clock at night.
Wow. Okay.
And my dad was so adherent on, me making sure I did really good in my studies and everything. So instead of taking me off the tractor so I could really actually study, he welded a book stand onto the tractor so I could kind of grip clip my book while I read, while I was dragging a field or plowing a field or whatever the hell I was doing. So so that's how I kind of grew up. The work ethic was kind of, I wouldn't say beaten into me, but it was definitely something that was, you worked your ass off.
Yeah.
And I also did that at 5:30 in the morning. So I would get up at 5:30 in the morning, get on the tractor, drag a field or prep it to be planted or something, and then get on the bus and go to school. And this was my life from 12 years old to 18. So you can imagine that I was driving tractors at 12. I was driving trucks, cars, no matter what. And that's
where in the country was this? Where are you?
Ithaca, New York.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
Tractors
upstate.
in Ithaca.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, this was kind of the way I was able to move right. Grip truck driving. So I went to film school at Emerson.
Hey, let's hold that. We're gonna jump back in on. I went to film school at Emerson. Your audio is degrading over the course of our conversation. Right. Just what are you using for your just computer, your computer mic?
Do you want me to go to that?
Well, I just wonder because it's to the point where I'm starting to miss words. It's getting rough.
All right, so let me just pull these out.
Yeah, and then that just muted you, so I don't know if you can hear us.
Okay, how does that sound? Does that sound any better?
Worlds better.
That's so much better, yeah.
Okay,
can you hear us, though? You're hearing us okay?
Yeah,
okay.
Let me
perfect.
Get it a little closer so I can... Okay, great.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, slight audio change, fair listeners.
Right.
All right. So you went, you suddenly
Well, the
sound
thing is,
like a million bucks.
I have all the high dollar audio. I got my Shure here and all this stuff, but I just don't have a way to hook it up to my computer right now. So I'm
Why do
sorry
you
about
tease
that.
us by showing us that stuff? I'm better off not knowing. For crying out loud.
Here, I got the studio. Let me,
Jiminy Christmas, Shane.
By the way, I have this Airy right behind me that I could be using to film us with, but
Okay. First official troll on the show. That's outstanding. All right. So you went to school.
Back to Ithaca. Yeah.
You went to school at Emerson.
Yeah, so
Emerson, excellent school, Boston.
Yeah, excellent school. Absolutely loved it. Then out of there, I came out of Emerson like I think every student does. They're so damn confident, and we're going to change the world, and I'm just going to roll right into a job. So I'm like da 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 da. My wife or my mom buys me a 3-piece suit. And I'm pounding the pavement in Boston, knocking on doors and everything, because that's what you think you do back then, and just door being closed in my face, production company after production company, and then I ended up going back to the rental house that I interned at, and said, "Hey, do you need somebody to work in the warehouse?" And they did. So that's how it started. $3.50 an hour. Working, packing grip trucks. Within 3 months, I was then running the whole place. Within another 3 months, I was also like the marketing rep, so I was doing all the orders, arranging all the drivers, prepping all the packages, music videos, commercials, all that stuff. And then I started going out and driving the 10-ton trucks. So when I finally decided to come to Los Angeles, my fiance at the time, who I played with her every Sunday because her dad brought my great grandmother communion at our home. So at 4 and 5 years old, we already hooked up. And by 9th grade, we were dating, and then we never stopped. So it was
fantastic.
Yeah, just an amazing kind of, those things just don't happen anymore, right?
That's a great story.
It's fantastic.
So, she got a full ride because she went to Simmons, and she came out as an RN, and Children's Hospital gave us, an apartment to stay in. They gave her a full moving allowance, everything. So she was basically the breadwinner for the first 2 or 3 years, well, probably 4 years, while I was trying to make it in Hollywood.
And what are you trying to do? Like, you're just still knocking on doors in LA, or what's that look like?
So when I got to LA, I immediately went and started back at the bottom all over again. So I really, at the point when I left Boston, I was doing really well. I had gotten a home on VFW Parkway, just a nice area of Boston. I was, driving in every day to work. I was freelancing. It was good. But what I realized is the only way I was going to move up in the freelance world in Boston is if the guy or the girl above me died.
Yeah.
Right?
That's one of those tough elements.
You hate to just wish that on people all the time. You just hate carrying that baggage around.
Yes, of course. So I was like, all right, I'm coming out to Hollywood, and I'm going to make it my own. So we go out there, we camp all the way across with a Ford Ranger pickup truck and a U-Haul.
Nice.
A scooter and a tent.
Did you know, at this point, are you trying to make it behind the camera? Like, is that do you know already? Like, what are you trying to
or in G&E?
All I know is that I really loved grip and electric work. Right? Okay. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Right? So I come to Hollywood. I get a job at Film Arts. Or no, sorry, Film Arts. That's where I was in Boston. I get a job at what the hell was it called? Film Lights. Key Light. That's what it was. Key Light. This thing was, they had been there since the 70s, and they were the largest rental house in America at the time. So I started there, and I went from Boston at $3.50 an hour. And I went out and bought all these shorts and sneakers and clam digger shorts and T-shirts, and I was all ready to enjoy, the Southern California atmosphere. So I show up with that wardrobe day one, and they're like, all right, jeans, take off those clam diggers, get some steel-toed boots on you, and we'll get $5 an hour. And I'm like, what the hell? So I started packing grip trucks and stuff. And I was that kind of person that was, like everyone said, I was like the Energizer Bunny, right? So I'm always running around. Everyone tells you not to run on set. I tell you exact opposite. If you run, it means you have purpose. And nice. I don't run. I walk with intense purpose. Which
I love that.
A slow run. Okay.
Yeah.
So this producer was trying to arrange a deal with Key Light for their feature film. And he's up in the second story, and he's looking down onto the main kind of courtyard where all the trucks are pulled in and everything. And he's watching me run across the parking lot. And the guy goes, who the hell is that guy?
What's wrong with that guy?
He goes, this is this crazy guy from Boston. He's come here and he just runs circles around everyone. We just can't give him enough work. And he goes, well, can he drive a truck? And I said, yeah, he drove 10 tons and 40 footers on his farm. And I saw his class 1 license. So sure enough, that guy, Roberto, comes down to me and he said, would you like to work on this movie? And I was like, well, what is it? And he goes, Phantasm 2. And I go,
oh, for the love of everything.
Nice.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He goes, all right, so here's what it is. This is the dates. This is the thing. Here's the rates. $350, 6-day week, 18-hour days. I think I was making like $2.20 an hour.
That's Phantasm 2. It's worth every penny.
Oh, my God.
So this is I finally are going to answer the question to your question.
Do you know what? I'll wait. I'm doing fine.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm on the set of Phantasm 2. And obviously they have this ball, this mirror ball, and that flies through the air and it sticks into people's heads, and then a drill comes out and drills their brains out, right?
As you do.
So the producer had hired this special effects guy that came in, and he's going to fly the balls, right? So he's got this piano line, and he's got his ball, and he's got this kind of, it almost looked like some really bad, cheesy spring load system, right? And so we got the camera, and we're all set up, and we roll it, 120 frames per second or whatever, and we're rolling in reverse, so it goes past us or does everything, and he fires it, and the thing goes.
We gotta describe what you're doing. It's like a spiral action.
It's like a sad corkscrew.
And then by the time it gets to the middle of the line, it just slowly does kind of
vibrates to a stop.
Comes to a stop.
As the cradle of the weight of it, because he can't stretch the line so tight. And we're like, okay, let's go again. Roll camera.
So sad.
Well, cut, and we're like burning all this film. And I go up to the producer and I said, I pitched in college ball. And he goes, well, how does that help me? And I said, well, if you want it to come around the corner, I'm a righty, so I can make it come around that corner. That's a curveball. If you want to come around that corner, well, that's a rising fastball. It's like, I'll throw this damn thing and we'll get the shot. So we fire the special effects guy.
So
you threw the phantasm ball, Shane?
I just start chucking these things. I'm like, all right, they want to come around that corner. So I like wind up and then throw a curveball, and that damn thing goes right around the corner. And they're like, whoa, right? And he comes up to me and they're like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, that was a real good one. Let's do that again. And of course, I go for the rising fastball and I release it a little too early, and the fucking thing just shatters off the wall, you know? And they go, those things are $180 a piece. And I'm like, hey, just like any pitcher, they throw it in the dirt every once in a while. So I'm like, even these things, and they're shattering off walls and everything. But we got 4 or 5, and those are the ones that are in the film.
Oh, man.
Going by camera, right? So I started to, immediately start to have a bond with the producer and everything. And so one of the Key Grip's name, what the hell was his name? I can't remember. Whatever. He's on the radio, and he goes, "Hey Shane, I need an 18x24 brought into the crematorium set stat." Right. So I'm on the truck, and I grab the flag, and I'm running through and this was all in Chatsworth. We took over like this huge warehouse in Chatsworth that we built the crematorium, built all the specific rooms where they go in the mortuary and everything. And I'm racing this flag down the steps in the crematorium, and the best boy electric, who graduated from USC Film School, cinematography program and everything, Brian Coyne, is walking up the stairs. And he stops me and he goes, "Would you be scared?" And I go, "Brian, what the hell are you talking about?" He goes, "Look at the crematorium set," because we were on the stairs. He goes, "Every nook and cranny is lit. There's no shadow."
Yeah.
Boom. Right like that. Everything I looked at was light. And I went from a grip truck driver in 1988 to shooting Come As You Are for Nirvana in 1991. So it was literally a rocket ship, right? It's like, finally I saw it.
You saw the light.
When I jumped into narrative work, I didn't even see that. It was the craziest thing. I couldn't see, when I read a script, I couldn't visualize it.
Okay.
So the first 5 or 6 films, which were some of my best work, I really didn't understand how to read emotion, how to read into the character, how to, design camera motion and lighting emotion and all these things that now I've kind of mastered and figured all out. But in the beginning, I just saw it as words on a page. Then I read The Perfect Storm and Shadow of the Wind. And those 2 books were a catalyst to finally having me put the words to visual. And once that happened, it was like I was off to the races in the feature world. So it's like what had catapulted me to the music video and commercial world was just trying really crazy stuff. And I was like a wacky photochemist, right? I was always doing weird things, like I shot the Smashing Pumpkins Cherub Rock in Mount Tamalpais up in San Francisco, shot it on Super 8, 50 ASA at night in the forest. And then we set it up where we would roll for 10 seconds and then start the song. Okay. So then I took all that film, I created a lab in my bathtub, and I would crank it up to 10 seconds in, and then I'd listen to the song, and I was developing it to the song and the music. When the guitar solo would come in, I'd slow down so it'd blow out and overexpose. Then I'd whip it back in, and then it would underexpose and come back out. So it's like the whole music video was like a living and breathing process that I, was able to process all the film to the song, right? Then I took it out on my beautiful Craftsman driveway that had the best cement auger kind of mix, and I'd put 2 reels and I just slowly reel it so it slid across and scratched the whole negative. And then that's what we'd take to company 3 and make it so.
Wow.
That's outstanding.
That is
I had no idea.
That's like
it's like a chemical cinematic lunatic, and I'm wondering if you have any room. I'd like you to take on the role of my uncle. From now on, you're just going to be Uncle Shane.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and I got so into all the cocktails, right?
Yeah.
So early on in my career, I was all about the what kind of cocktails I was going to cook up with film. Like I would bake it, so I'd lower the ISO, or I had this idea. It was like I was watching all these people. They're shooting black and white, and everyone's getting all these accolades for shooting it. And I was like, I wonder if that sound recording film that you could actually, expose that. I mean, it's a film. Maybe you could expose it. And I remember going to Van Horn at Photochem, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing, Shane? You're trying to record on the mag stock?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm telling you, I know there's an ISO, So sure enough, I do all these testing, and I find that it has an 80 ASA, and I shoot on this stuff, and it has 10 times the silver that black and white has because it has to record the soundtrack.
Yeah, sure.
So the black and white imagery is insane. Wow. The grays and the mids have like this multi-planing of shadow that looks so three-dimensional. I show it to this one commercial director, and he's like, "We're shooting that for this Renova campaign." So this is my whole career has been this. I put myself out there. I find these things, and then something goes awry. Okay. And what went awry on Renova was we bring it only comes in 2,050-foot spools. So I had to take Photochem so they could cut it down into 400-foot loads, right?
My God, yeah.
So we get that all out, and we're out in the middle of Baker, California, at Dumont Dunes. And we got all the agency and the client and all these big models, and they're out there with the blowing silk and shit and all this stuff. And I'm just shooting. And before we roll, the director, who is also a still photographer, comes up to me. He goes, "What if we use a red filter? You know how those red filters, they bring the sky down, and then we can add the polarizer, and oh my God, we'll give this even more dimension." I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds amazing. Let's do it." So we slap the red filter on, we slap the polarizer, and we shoot our asses off for about 14 hours. No. Sunrises, sunsets, that classic shot where the sun is flaring just over the dune, right? Where you're seeing the crescent, and then the model comes up and silhouettes, and just beautiful sweeping crane shots, Russian arms through the whole thing. Huge budget. Go back to the hotel because we're going to do the next day. And I call Mark Van Horn, and I'm like, "I'm so excited. You got to tell me what this stuff looks like. Come on, blow my mind." And he's like, "What stuff?" And I go, "We shot 8,000 feet. We sent it to you." "Yeah."
Oh, no.
"Did you have the lens cap on?" And I'm like, "Wait, what? What's the safe light for that mag stock?" And he goes, "Red." I'm like, "Oh my God."
Oh my God. I know. I mean, you're laughing about it right now, but you got to give me a second to grieve.
Dude, I lost my shit. I was like, "Oh my God." And I never forget calling the director. Those calls are the worst.
Oh, no kidding.
5 times in my career, and they are awful times.
Oh.
When you tell them that everything we shot, that $500,000 day is literally gone.
Oof.
So I literally went to all my crew and asked them to work for free. I asked for Photochem to process all the stuff for free, all my vendors to give us another day, and we did it. And we
Wow.
didn't shoot with that goddamn red filter. The footage was unbelievable, and then everyone was super happy.
Yeah.
So it had an
Right.
amazing
Yeah.
end, but this is how I've done my whole career. I'm that kind of person that's fearless. I'll jump off the fucking plane without a goddamn parachute.
Yeah, just a little bit of stress in there. Well, and that's
somehow I'm going to figure out a way to parachute down. I'll grab a hold of somebody.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. Well, and what's so interesting is like there's such a level of like art that you're just an experimentation in the science of actual cinematography and film and like playing with the stocks and everything.
Yes.
That obviously works really well in the world of music videos that you were starting in commercials and everything. But then transitioning into film, there's less of that sort of opportunity generally in film. Yes. So how did you still find ways to experiment and explore as you started jumping into films and making movies?
Well, so again, there was just like that aha moment, that light bulb happened that catapulted me to start shooting. I had the same exact thing happen to me in narrative. Okay. So I'm shooting a music video for Donna Summer. Okay. And she happens to be singing the song for the main needle drop in what the hell was that tunnel movie? Daylight with
Sylvester Stallone. Yeah,
right.
Rob Cohen was the director on that.
Sure, yeah.
And he he sent his production staff down to make sure that Donna Summer was all taken care of. You know, Rob Cohen is an amazing filmmaker. He's very into making sure everyone's taken care of, and he dots the I's, crosses the T's. I learned so much from this man. So he brought his staff down, and then all of a sudden I get this weird call like a week later. And they said that Rob Cohen would like to meet you, and he wants you to interview for shooting the HBO movie, The Rat Pack. And I was
sure, yeah.
Whoa. Okay. So I went to Universal Studios where he had his whole offices, his whole production arm. It was a beautiful cluster near the Alfred Hitchcock bungalows at Universal, and went in there and had a conversation with him and walked out of there. He hired me to shoot it. One of the things that I had to do was, he said, we need to go to the Universal or the HBO Black Tower in Century City, and you're going to need to, because I want you, but HBO is not convinced that they want you. They've never heard of you. You're some crazy, music video shooter.
Yeah.
And how could you ever do anything that was narrative?
Gotcha.
Right?
Sure.
Right.
So I think I'm going in to just meet the head of production, for movies, and all of a sudden I'm put in a room with 6 executives, and they just start firing questions at me. And it was really crazy questions. And I mean, good, thoughtful questions that really kind of, I got to one point because the questions got so kind of over the top that I just said, I go, you know what? I just want to cut to the chase here. I understand that this is an absolute amazing opportunity for me. Yeah. And I am going to bring the rain. I'm going to use all my contacts in commercials, all my vendors. I'm going to put together the most amazing crew. I am going to give you 180% on this thing if you want to hire me. If you don't, I'm going to go back to commercials. Bob Giraldi, who's already offered me a directing gig at Giraldi Suarez, I'll go back to my wonderful commercial world, and I'll be able to take advantage and see my daughter being born. And, if you want me, you want me. If you don't, you don't. And I stood up, turned around, and walked out. And I was like, because it was like, how do you light,
Yeah.
How do you light
like skills questions? Yeah. Are you defending a dissertation or what?
Oh,
it sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lighting. how can you light 6 people? Well, that's kind of what a band is.
Yeah.
Can you light darker skin tones? You got Sammy
Because we
Davis
got Cheadle in there. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Cheadle, and I go, well, I've dealt with a lot of different darker skin tones on many music videos. So these were the kind of questions they were asking me. So I walked out. They all ran after me, and they said, "No, we want to hire you." So I got that job. But what I didn't know, and this was not revealed to me till I finished the last shot. Rob Cohen came up to me and he goes, "Shane, I just want you to know that HBO was not convinced that you would be able to pull this movie off. So they wanted to do these pre-shoots, and based on the pre-shoots that we did, they had a crew fully hired for 1 week. They had another director of photography. They were paying another director of photography and a whole crew on standby if I failed."
Wow. Oh my God.
And I was like, it's a good thing you didn't tell me that.
Yeah. No kidding.
Right. Good God.
Right? Because it's going to ruin your confidence that the
right.
studio doesn't believe in you, right? So by the second day of the pre-shoot, the HBO exec came in and told everyone that they had discovered me. And I went,
of course they did. Sounds like an executive.
HBO shows and promos for a long time, and it was awesome. I mean, I had such a great relationship with the whole promo department. Chris Spencer, Maurice Maribel was over there. All that team was just fueling. We were just fueling off of each other. They gave me ability to direct some promo spots. So it was a really wonderful collaboration that happened all from a music video. That is lightning.
That's crazy.
Those kinds of stories just don't happen.
And then, then Rob takes you on, and you end up doing. How many did you do? You did the Skulls after that, right?
The Skulls. I did a ABC or a NBC pilot with him, and then we were all slated to do Fast and the Furious. He wanted me to do it. I was all locked in. I was meeting with Brian Grazer and all the team to be able to do that, and then all of a sudden it switched. Because they had, I guess, Universal had signed some deal with this director of photography that was getting into directing. So he had done all these favors for Universal, and this was the payback. So he had to shoot Fast and Furious to then get his next directing gig. So that was kind of, it tossed me out of it, which was unfortunate. But, one door closes, the other one opens.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you've been keeping very, very busy throughout your career. I mean, from that point in time, like Drumline, Mr. 3000, Into the Blue, The Greatest Game Ever Played, and then We Are Marshall. That's where you kind of kick things off with McG, right? Where you start this relationship that's progressing all the way until now because you're about to shoot. Or have you started shooting the latest movie with him, right?
Yeah, so I just shot Way of the Warrior Kid with McG, and then we're doing the Kiss biopic in 2025 together, which is going to be huge.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine that? Oh, my God. I cannot. I mean, I'm like, I've already started, working with MBS, the big rental house out of here. I'm like, you got to get me par cans for days. I can't have any LED. I got to go back to the 70s and 80s, right? So all this LED tech is going to be vaporized for what I'm using on stage for sure.
Well, and that is going to be hot.
That should give you some fun return to playing with camera, like you were, like you did in your music video days too. So
what a get!
That's
outstanding.
Talk a little bit.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, talk a little bit about like working relationships with directors. I mean, you've there are a number of different directors you've worked with a number of times in your career, and McG is one of them. And I'm just using that as kind of a point here, but just like the working relationship, developing that language that you're going to share with that director over the course of a number of different projects. And obviously every project has its own style, its own look and everything. But what's your process in jumping into a project with like McG, where you both have already a number of projects under your belt, but starting to figure out like, okay, what are we doing here that is going to be different from what we've done in the past?
So Mick G is a very communicative director in the start of production, of kind of getting everyone making one movie instead of 99 movies.
Sure.
And he does that with a sizzle. He takes the time to really go through the script, and he finds all these amazing moments in movies that you just like, oh, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. That's kind of Mick G's style. He takes something that say, remember the Miami Vice scene where they're going in the car and it played in the air tonight? And they're driving and it's Michael Mann and it's just the tire, it's just the hood, and then it's those overs where they're going to go and they got a big shootout that they're going to go to, and that song is playing through the Miami streets and everything. Well, he folds all that in and he goes, we're just going to do that again on this film, because what's going to happen is people are going to not necessarily know, was that from something, but they're going to feel that emotion, and that is his style. He pulls from these classic movies, so you relive that emotion and relive this emotion all over again. And it's a very unique style, and that's what he's created as his kind of his look. That's the Mick G experience. Yeah. So he does this sizzle, and you hold him to it. Like those moments that he is putting in that sizzle are moments that he wants on the screen. He wants this. So once I start to tell everyone that hasn't worked with Mick G before that this is our Bible as well as the script, to really hone in the details and design, I just sit there and I watch that sizzle, 20 times, and I'm looking at the imagery and I'm looking how it feels and the pacing and the roller coaster and all that stuff. And then I communicate that to the team and we start just going, and he just lets me roll. And that's what we've been working together since 1991. I shot Cypress Hill, Sugar Ray, all his music videos back in the day when he was first starting out. I was, working alongside him when I was starting my DP career. So we kind of started together as director DP, as like first, newbies in the industry. Yeah. And it was great to have him, call me for We Are Marshall. And then we went right into Terminator Salvation. And then we did Babysitter together, and then teamed up for Rim of the World. And now Way of the Warrior Kid. And I've also worked for his company, Wonderland Sound and Vision, because they like to harness a lot of first-time directors and really shine a spotlight on them. And I come in as kind of the veteran cinematographer to really teach them how to prep a movie and really put as much on the screen as possible, and really organize it and teach them the etiquette and protocol of shot listing and blocking schematics and how important it is to create lookbooks and pitch decks and all this kind of stuff. So I've done I think a 10 or 11 movies through Wonderland.
Wow. Okay.
So that's kind of Mick G's style. Then you have first-time directors where, they have amazing ideas that they want to come to fruition. And if you had, say, a necessary peer that was around the same age as this first-time director, well, they're going to be kind of figuring it all out together. Where I come in and I've lit, 100 bedrooms, 100 dining rooms, night exteriors. There's not much that I've not been able to light and lens and bring to life. So I really give them the ability I light stuff very fast, and they're able to get in there and really get their performances. So that's that working relationship. So they bring in these grand ideas, and I'm able to actually figure out how to do these grand ideas and put them into the budgetary box.
Yeah, the interpreter.
Musica, was a perfect example of that. Here was Rudy Mancuso. He had never directed a feature film, done a lot of shorts and stuff. We team up together. We literally have 7 3-hour sessions that were just 7 days in a row, 3-hour sessions where we're shot listing the whole movie. And the ideas and craziness with in-camera split screens and cameras that move effortlessly with them, and oneers that are 5-minute shots that have walls opening up and closing and spinning and sets deploying right in front of you and everything. This was his whole vision. And I was like, holy crap, how am I going to pull this off with the money that we have? And we're shooting in New York, so it's like, and I'm going back to the goddamn Charlie Chaplin days on this thing, right? I don't
right
or anything. I'm like doing pulleys with goddamn sandbags, 3/8-inch line to be able to hoist the backdrops up and send them back down. There was nothing automated at all, So, and it's that scrappiness that I love when it's like I love working on budgets that are like this far apart, 200 million to, 15 million, because then you got to get really scrappy. You get put in that box, and then how can you figure out, how to deliver a, $80 million movie for $15 million. And that's kind of why I get hired a lot, is kind of that style. I'm able to be very scrappy. I'm super organized. So I have a whole team of assistants that are not my camera assistants. They're just my assistants to prep the movie. Yeah, so we go in and we make deals with vendors, and we're only using the 50-foot techno on this day and on that day. And, we really break it down. So it's not like 50-foot techno like I did on Greatest Game for, 47 days. It just was there, whether we used it or not. Well, with these budgets where they really get shrunk, you really have to detail and go down the rabbit hole of really planning out your shots to know when you need the crane, when you need to show scope, when you don't. That's the whole thing with the movies. So that became kind of like how I work with first-time directors. Then you have directors that are incredibly seasoned, but they only want to be around the actors. So it's all the performance, and it's all driven by the actors. The actors come in, they block, and we observe, and then I have to figure out as quickly as possible how to light it. Because, I did my normal style of working with, a director that, I want to try to be as organized as possible. So I'm like planning out, I'm doing my own blocking schematics. I'm doing my own shot lists, because she just wants to be with the actors and the blocking and all that stuff. So, first day walk in and I'm, dialing in already before she's in there, lighting the whole kitchen. Yeah. And she's like, "Good morning, Shane. How are you?" And I go, good. And I'm like, "So what are you doing in here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm just reading the script. It says kitchen." "Oh no, we're doing that in the billiard room."
What?
I'm like, "Oh, wait, what? That's on the other side of this house." I'm like, "Okay, guys, we're going to the billiard room. We need to move that Magni 167 around with the 3 Vulcans over there, and we need a book." So finally, after that moment, that happened 3 days in a row. I go to the dining room. "No, we're in the kitchen." I go to the kitchen. "No, we're in there." And it's like, okay, I'm going to surround this goddamn house with so much light that can be deployed, so we are ready at all times. So you work with directors like that want the freedom.
Yeah,
sure.
Let the actors go and see where they go. And then I have to come in there, with my team of amazing technicians and whip it together as fast as possible. Right?
We're going to have to turn our attention to Inglourious Basterds in a second, but I got to talk about Terminator Salvation. Was that by the time you get that in 2000, I don't know when you got it, 2007, 2008, whatever. That was the biggest thing
biggest thing I've ever done. I went from 58 million on We Are Marshall but you got to understand, Terminator Salvation, when it started out, it was only $100 million. Yeah. It was a low budget film, pretty much. It was all financed through the Halcyon Corp. They had bought the rights to Terminator, the franchise.
The property,
they bought that property. They had to end up selling it after Terminator Salvation because all their business dealings and everything kind of went south. But that movie went from $100 million, where I had less money to light on that than I did on $25 million swing vote, right? So that's how it started. And then the writer's strike, and then the third act expansions, and then all of a sudden it was a $200 million blockbuster. Right.
Oh, wow.
On a cursed, what essentially is kind of a cursed movie, cursed timing, cursed with changes, and cursed with budget bloat. And here you are, like, doing the biggest thing you've ever done. And I'd just like to hear some thoughts about you putting the sort of your sort of visual footprint in a massive franchise like Terminator, that at that point it was kind of in a controversial sort of middle space for fans.
Absolutely. And, when I'll never forget the day, because Mick G is always, he's got his flair, right? So when he landed the Kiss biopic, he walked on set with the greatest Kiss jacket I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, oh, we got it? And he goes,
yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay.
So he walks me in and he goes, he wanted to have a meeting with me, and I sit down in his office, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he brings this T-1000 and slams it down on the desk, and he goes, how about reinventing this franchise? And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
And so, when that came, he was like, Shane, you're so photochemically like a juggernaut in really figuring this out. I don't want to do this like all these other post-apocalyptic films. I want us to come up with a really unique look. I go, okay. I said, I did this weird music video for the Rolling Stones, and I did this, what Mike Zachariah and I came up with. It was called the Oz process. So what it was is you shot color negative, and then you sent it through at the end a black and white fixer. Now, what that did is it left all the silver and everything on the negative, and it desaturated everything and turned everything a silvery gray.
Yeah.
And I go,
okay.
Crap. The machines are taking over the world, taking over the resistance. We're going to make that New Mexico desert look like silver rods, not golden rods. Everything is going to have the emotion that these machines, everything you see in the landscape, even though it's a vast landscape, it's silver rods, silvery desert. Everything is not going to be this brown on brown on brown that we had seen on many post-apocalyptic movies prior to this point.
Right.
And then what I did is we did all those tests. I shot with the Primos, shot at 52, 40, 45, I think at the time. So it was a low 50 ASA stock. I did all the day exteriors, all the day interiors I lit with that same stock, 50 ASA. And then obviously 500 ASA, I think 5298 for all of the stuff for night exteriors and everything. But what it did was red was the only color that would show through. So are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Silver and then red. Through the red of the
red eyes,
Terminator eyes,
the red of his armband,
exactly. Yeah. So now when we go through this process, I take it to Stefan Sonnefeld at Comedy 3. Love this man. He's such an incredible artist. And we sit down and he sees this footage and he goes, Shane, this is some of the coolest looking footage I've ever seen. But for us to be able to handle the whole movie, let me take this as the example and let me build this process digitally so we can have the freedom to bring the skin back, because the resistance has to feel alive.
Human. Yeah.
Absolutely. They have to have humanity. right? The machines have to be silvery and metal and titanium and steel, but we got to have that skin tone. So he mimicked it beautifully. And I thought, out of all my work, The Greatest Game and Terminator Salvation are two of my favorites, where I designed looks that were very specific to the emotion of the story, right? Terminator with the silvery and the red shining through, and the way that was filmed. I wanted the whole earth to be on fire, so it was always smoking and smoldering.
And the practical fire that we get, the explosions have a really interesting contrast that you don't see in very many places. I don't think I would had seen much like it until maybe Fury Road, which was doing some really incredible things again.
A whole other take on it, where he went, instead of silvery, he went to the orange side, the skies, and more of that.
But as soon as things explode, you get the vibrance. It's almost like HDR adjacent vibrance to the blacks in the smoke and the darkness of the shadow. It's pretty cool, man. The look of that movie holds up in spite of how fans feel about it as a Terminator movie. But damn, it holds up.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you just said is, like, I have so much more appreciation now for the look period, because I mean, I think you start thinking, especially post 2000, the DI process, they can kind of do whatever they want with all the colors and everything. But what you're describing is how much time really goes into thinking about the specifics of what you want it to look like. And then you and the team, like, working through all of the different things to actually find a way to do that. And yes, it ended up being through the digital intermediate process, but because of all the work that you came up with, playing around with all these film stocks and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fascinating.
That was kind of our brick and mortar, right? That was the foundation of that look. And then Stefan could just riff off of it. And the skies were so
cool.
Steely blue, right? It's like it was muted, but you still had that depth, and the clouds and the machine. I mean, it was so much fun to shoot. And, it's those kind of things really, I always try to make myself as uncomfortable as possible on everything I do. That's how you create
pushing yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you go into something, you're not too sure if it's going to work. And I kind of have this fearless, kind of mindset where I just jump in and figure it out.
Yeah.
Act of Valor was a perfect example of that. I mean, I was told by every ASC member that I was literally insane that I could shoot a movie that went to 9,000 screens in America and abroad, and then put in 12 IMAX theaters on a Canon 5D Mark II still camera, right? So it's like, think about the goddamn uncomfortableness of that shit. It's like I had to literally spearhead and, engineer a whole platform, right? You couldn't just take the still camera there. We got to have focus. We got to have motors. We got to have all this stuff that nobody ever figured out,
Yeah,
and
right,
I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm like, what if I take this thing and I create a Panavision mount, put that thing on there, and then
on a Canon 5D Mark.
I can put 12-to-1s on there. I can put all these lenses on the back of this 5D. I'm putting the head there, and the camera is just floating on the back of the lens. The head is for the lens, not the camera, right? So it was like a complete reinvention of how you even think. And assistants would come in, I'd hire like assistants, Hollywood assistants that would come in, and they're like seeing all these pieces and parts and little mini HDMI cables and shit. And they're like, what the hell have I just walked into? And it was a huge learning curve for everyone. But this is kind of what I think, that's what fires up my creativity to really push the boundaries of cinematography and really take it in directions that people not necessarily would have gone.
God, I love it. Well, speaking of pushing bounds, let's shift gears and let's start talking about Tarantino, somebody who certainly pushes bounds and does tells stories in unique ways, makes really fascinating films, and we're going to talk about Inglourious Basterds. So this, you sent us a fantastic list of films to pick from, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I think Pete and I might have just been in a Tarantino sort of mood, which is an easy mood to be in. But we're like, oh, let's do.
There was
Inglourious
no
Basterds.
question. There was just no question.
I was like, oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
What is it about this film that stands out for you? Like like when you first saw it, can go back to that time when you first saw it. Like, what did you think afterward? Like, oh my God, this is what it was.
Yeah, so I want to clear the air with this. When I go to watch a movie, I go to watch a movie to watch a movie. I'm not sitting there overanalyzing the lighting and saying, "Oh my God, I couldn't believe he did this or she did that or whatever."
Right.
It's there to just enjoy the time, being in the theater, feeling the heartbeat of the audience, all that stuff. That's what movies is all about. So I go in.
Andy and I don't know how to do that anymore, but go ahead.
So I'll go back a second time and watch it, and then I'll overanalyze the shit out of it.
Sure.
But first time, I really want to experience it. What was so compelling on this movie was the first scene. The first scene, Tarantino was able to create a level of tension that few directors have ever been able to accomplish. And that is his genius, right?
Yeah.
Putting the audience in a situation where we're literally transitioning from, upstairs where he's having that nice little cup of tea or whatever, and go down and see that everyone who's hiding underneath the damn floorboards and everything, and just the way that actor talked and how he oh my God, it was just like he was a snake slithering around that guy's neck till the point where he had to cry uncle, and they just went and shot all the people down and just one person survived, right. You come off of that, and that scene was uncomfortably long too, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people said to me, well, why do you like this movie? The whole beginning is boring. I'm like, what are you talking about? The tension, the building. This is his, how he sets the tone. And once you have that, once you know how ruthless this guy is, he's going to be coming back in the end. You know the weight of what the Germans are doing at this time. I love that he centered it around like this movie theater too, that it had all the dealing. I thought Brad Pitt and his whole collection of Nazi hunters were just unbelievable. Like the guy from Brooklyn, the guy from he was from the South, just the whole collection. That's where Tarantino builds these very unique characters. And what I find in his scripts, more than a lot of other directors, is I know the backstory on that character, and I don't even know the backstory. That's how well he does it, right? You already know Brad Pitt, where he was from, how he was raised, all this stuff, just by him coming on screen, using his accent, the way he dresses, all those things add up to, my God, I know this dude's backstory, and Tarantino hasn't even told it to me. He's told it to us in very subtle ways, but so beautifully done that you absolutely know and feel it.
What's so interesting
down to the rope burn around his neck.
Yes, totally. Exactly.
One of there are two bits of backstory that he reveals in, I think, really interesting ways, because you're absolutely right. Most of the characters that we get to know, we don't really get to know them through any sort of Book of the Vampire. But Daniel Bruhl, we get through other people speaking unsubtitled German to him in a way that lets us, through only body language, understand that he is famous, which I think is lovely. And Hugo Stiglitz, who has a completely different backstory reveal because he's so gloriously violent, and that becomes the thing that makes it important and different for us to get a backstory. He's like the only one that we get a backstory on,
right? And we do
you
that,
got
and he
the
does that
Samuel
with those
Jackson
really
narration and
quick
everything.
shit. That's
Yeah.
again, it's like what I love about Tarantino is he's a chameleon, right? And I call it, and I use his playbook. I call this is Shane Hurlbut cinematography is my mixtape. I take a little bit of Richardson, I little Deakins, I take a little of Chivo, I take a little of Harrisavitas. It's like, and that's the whole button. Well, Tarantino does the same thing with all his Japanese-inspired films and this, that, and all these different animations and anime.
Westerns.
Westerns and all that stuff. And he just cooks this into a damn, crock pot and kicks out Inglourious Basterds, and you're just like in awe of the dialogue. That's the other thing. Not only is he able to do this beautiful backstory that you immediately understand the characters and their depth and dimension, the dialogue is so goddamn genius and so well written and well crafted. I mean, the words that come out of Brad Pitt's mouth are, you're just sitting there laughing your ass off. He did the same thing in Django Unchained. With Don Johnson, that whole damn pillowcase thing and where you're going to cut the eyes and all that stuff and the full regalia. And he's like, well, shit fire. Don Johnson has never been better. It's like, I want to see him in more movies because it's like he has the acting cred. Where the hell did he go? But I just again, the being able to pull from all these elements and infuse it into a period piece, Nazi hunters. It's just got the greatest, kind of like snippet of storytelling that all of a sudden you're like, wedged in on this wonderful time that actually kind of happened, right? Wasn't it based on like a true story of some extent where they actually had these people that went out just like, when, Hitler was trying to confiscate all the artwork and everything. You had those guys. Remember Clooney did that one where
the Monuments Men.
Yeah. Monument Men, to be able to go in and rescue all the Renoirs and all this amazing work of art. So just that whole kind of, I just love those kind of period pieces and taking that all in.
Well, and he also plays with music a lot, which I think is fantastic. And like bringing in a wide variety of tracks that he's pulled from all sorts of other films, just like you were talking about all the things that he pulls and shakes in his box from all these different films. Weird, Same thing with the music. And then we get David Bowie. David Bowie pops in. It's like, that is so anachronistic, but it emotionally, it fits so perfectly as we're watching Shoshana there standing by the window.
It's like a Butch Cassidy play, right? Raindrops keep falling on my head. It just feels weird and also perfect.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you always know that there's going to be some kind of massive brutal killing at the end where blood's going to be flying, to the left, to the right, center, hitting the ceiling. It's always awesome. There's always some incredible, third act.
To the point where he even calls out Mexican standoffs in the bar, right? They actually call it out.
That was a thing. Like you were talking about the incredible building of pressure in that opening sequence, but there are 4 or 5 scenes in this movie that do the same thing. That sequence in the bar when Jude Law gives up his 3
Michael Fassbender, you mean?
Or Michael Fassbender. Aren't they the same guy? I think they're the same guy. You guys don't know. Whatever. The 3 or 3 bit that gives it away. That sequence where they find it's suffocatingly long, right?
Exactly.
It's incredible. And when he comes back around at the end and tries to make all these dipshits speak Italian in the theater thing, that could not, I would have had to just leave watching the movie in my own home. I was so tense at that sequence. It's incredible.
Brad Pitt with his Southern accent trying to do Italian.
So good.
That's
That
what I
plays
love.
so well.
He's got tension.
Yeah.
He's got suspense. He's got drama. And then you're also laughing your ass off through the whole thing, too,
Yeah.
because everything is so absurd. It's like everything is just extra. It's not 10, it's 11. It's just turned up a little.
So okay, so you're watching this though. Let's say you've now watched it as a fan. When you watch it and you're pulling it apart as the camera guy, what is the stuff in this movie? Like, are there specific sequences that you look at and you think, okay, that's expert to a level that I feel like I need to shout from the rooftops?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Bob Richardson is probably my favorite cameraman out of all.
Okay.
Okay. And the main reason is because he and I he was like 5 or 8 years ahead of me in the music video shooting kind of era. But a lot of the stuff that he was doing was kind of like what because I was following him, I was looking at his work and seeing what he was doing. And I remember seeing JFK and Born on the 4th of July and started to see that amazing layering of Super 8 and 16 and all the cross processing and everything that he was doing to the negative and how he was. And it was kind of like what I was excited about, too. So it's like he is a crafter of different stocks and lenses and the way he lights is ballsy as shit. And I really like that. It's like, would you think about even Inglourious Basterds? Where the hell is that light coming from? There is no goddamn light in the world that is going to drive down that bright onto that table and bounce off their faces. They didn't have skylights in these homes in the 40s, right? It doesn't make any sense, but it visually looks awesome.
It's awesome.
Right.
What does that light do? It culminates what you're supposed to look at as an audience. That's the table. We don't need to worry about the windows and the doors and the shit around the peripheral. It's like this conversation. And then we transition through the cobwebs and the floorboards and down into the underbelly of the crawl space, right? And then back up. And it's just, I love, what he did on, what was that Killers thing that he did with, what was that?
That Richardson did?
Yeah, Richardson did. It was something with Stone, with Oliver Stone.
Oh, God, Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
And his surreal worlds that he put them in when they were in the car and all that thing. It wasn't really
crazy.
driving and all. I mean, this is, I love that artistry. Right. And that's what really gravitated towards him. It's like you got Richardson, you got Deakins, then you got Deakins, and then you throw in Jesse James. I think of all his work, it is the best he's ever done.
Gorgeous film.
In No Country.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's just a style and an effortless feeling to the visuals that are just so perfect. The silhouettes, the calmness of the camera, all these things, right? So I like to really, observe their work. And when I saw Inglourious Basterds, I saw, okay, this is Richardson coming in. He's what I loved very much is think about how beautiful the red curtains looked in that theater. And how important red was, right? And Tarantino is grinding down on that. This is the Nazi regime. We got to match that red. These things got to be
with her dress.
Or lipstick,
yes, exactly. I remember a conversation where he talked about it. I wanted you to put your hands on the image when you touch the curtain and you can drip red from your fingers. And I'll remember saying the same thing. It's like, okay, that's a great analogy, Bob. When I had an interview with Drumline, everyone's like, boy, when I saw Drumline, I'd never seen color like this before. It's like they popped off the screen.
Yeah.
And I said, I did this process with shooting an inner negative, then an inner positive, then an inner negative. And once you do that, when you get all those reversals in, you're just making everything more colorful and more contrasty. Right.
Oh,
So
okay.
it bakes in its color.
Yeah.
So then I wanted you to feel when A&T came out there, I wanted you to touch the screen and you had gold and blue on your fingers, and that was kind of the analogy that I stole from Bob Richardson,
Yeah.
because this was how that really felt. And it was, again, a huge story point to work into the emotion, the lighting emotion, the camera emotion, where the camera just feels so static, and you're like, why are we here for all this time? And then you start to slowly move down, and you're like, oh God, and then you reveal, and you're like, and then the tension is just I look to always try to when I'm trying to do really tense scenes, I always go back and watch a lot of Tarantino movies, because he has that kind of incredible tension. Look at that Hollywood movie.
Once Upon a Time
in Hollywood.
Hollywood. Think of the tension that goes into that final act sequence, right?
Yeah.
Where they come into the house, they got the gun, they got the knife, they're going down in there, and then he's got the dog, and he's got the dog food, and I'm just a flamethrower, but the tension of all this is just so visceral, and so anytime,
or that Spawn Ranch sequence. I mean,
oh my God,
totally,
exactly. Oh my God, that was almost. He took the Inglourious Basterds scene, and he took it up 10 notches with that one. Oh my God.
No kidding.
Home, that weird house with and I thought Bob did a smoking job in there, because it looked so seedy, and you didn't know what was in a corner. You saw the window,
couldn't see it.
It up, and did something move over there? It was spooky as shit, and it was daytime.
Yeah. Right. Well, and that's the process of because it's the lighting, where you're putting the lights and everything, but also the smoke in that particular case, and building the shadows in and everything. And I mean, we're certainly getting that here in Inglourious Basterds. I love the moment when the theater is burning and you've got all that smoke, and you just have her face laughing projected onto the smoke. We're seeing that. Right. Just, it's yeah, that is insane. And just the thought process of putting that together, and I'm sure they had to do some tests to figure out what's the right sort of smoke that we're going to be able to get to kind of use it with the projector.
You got to be able to see through it.
Yeah.
You can still see through it, but you could also see it projected onto the smoke, which is brilliant. I mean, that's just, a lot of Tarantino and Richardson. I mean, they work so well together. They've done so many movies together.
Yeah.
And, it's I think that any good director, when they find that cinematographer that just, you don't even have to say anything, and we just start doing it. Yeah. And that's very much like the relationship I have with McG. Also with Gabriele Muccino. I did Fathers and Daughters with him, and Casa Tutta Bene. He's a director that I just love telling his stories, because they're all based on drama, and he really enables you to move the camera. He loves moving camera. He doesn't like a lot of coverage. He really loves to just let the actors act, and it doesn't have to be in a close-up and an extreme close-up. It could be in a 50-50, and that's fine. It's a more of a European style to directing. And, when I'm kind of shaping myself as a cinematographer, I don't want to just work with, directors that are American. I want to, I worked with a Chinese director on Into the Badlands, and he taught me so much about action and how to shoot it. I worked with Suzanne Bier on Perfect Couple. Well, she's Danish, and she has a whole different view. It's very dogma, the way she likes to do her films and stuff. And then I worked with Gabriele, where we... the Italian side of it all. So, and, you just see all the different directing styles, and you just try to conform to and bring their style to life in a way that you're communicating this to all the key players, and trying to make it as beautiful and powerful emotionally as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wild.
I'm just and I don't think you did this exactly, but it got me going back through. I'm scrubbing The Babysitter, one of my very favorite horror comedies. I'm not kidding
so
you.
Good. It's so fun.
Freaking love that movie, Shane. It's so good.
It's like we shot that in 20 days.
Oh my god!
Oh my God.
Incredible.
Shoot.
Wow.
We were all at Warner Ranch. Now they bulldozed it and put 10 more studios there. It was the best ranch to shoot on in all of Hollywood. It was done by working production designers and cinematographers that built the grid, like where the streets are. They built it to the perfect light. They built all the homes so they were oversized inside, but you lens them correctly. All the box beams have outlets in them so you can plug in your lights right into the ceiling. The doors, because you know how difficult it is to shoot doors, right?
Yeah.
Opening the door, there's always, you can't get light anywhere. They put transom on the left and right side, so I'm actually able to light.
Nice.
So all this stuff, all these fine details. So we were there for 19 days, and we did one day on location at the
School,
race
right?
speedway.
The raceway. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting about it is, and you can tell as you talk about how the houses are built there, that you move the camera in ways that don't feel like you should be able to move the camera. And there are some reveals of moving from in his bedroom to out and down the stairwell that feels so Tarantino Richardson, right? Like that, you could just feel that flavor, and it works so well. I have to know, whose idea was it to put the camera on the bottle for the spin the bottle game? There you go, man. This is why you're such a player. This is why you're Uncle Shane. That was so good. It's so good.
It's like those are the kind of things where I'm such a, like a tweaker, a guy that's always like trying to, take a, it's even as a director of photography, I pan over and you can see my DP card over there, right? Right? So it's like that thing I've, rigged to the max. I'm in there with screw guns and drilling new things in it and rigging everything, So it's like I love that kind of, stuff. So when I got a cheesy Lazy Susan, from Amazon, and put that there, and got a 12 millimeter lens so you could see the bottle in the foreground. We cut the bottle out so I could get
just the neck of the bottle,
enough, right? So we got the glass cutter and we cut the thing so I could sit it right down there. So I almost felt like I was the POV of the bottle over
100%.
And it just worked like $1 million. And I lit that so everyone looked really cool in there. And then when those two girls kiss, oh my God.
It feels like this is what's so great about the bottle shot. It's like the bottle is manifesting that kiss. Like the bottle's like, I know what I want. I'm a bottle and I know what's going to happen next. That's how good that shot is. Yeah.
And then I remember when Mick G and I were talking about, the big stunt where he, gets the Camaro and he drives it, and he drives it through the house. I'm like, well, Mick G, we're just going to, he's going to hit that thing and go like this. He goes, no. Mick G, nothing is ever, like a normal thing, He goes, he's talking to the stunt driver and everything. He goes, I want this thing to spiral. And I'm like, who the hell would spiral off of that? It's like this, but this is now, it took me so, and I think I'm dumb sometimes because it took me so long to understand Mick G's style, where I'd always say, Mick G, this is not realistic. There's no way he would hit that thing and it would spin like this and go into the house. Come on, let's be, and he goes, no, we're doing this. So now on all his movies, it's like, you want that? Absolutely. It's like, Well, in this last movie, he's like, yeah, I want him jumping off. There's like this whole thing where he's got a moment with the child, and he is trying to convince him to, be fearless, and he's been bullied, this kid, and so he's trying to, get him to jump off this bridge. So we went and scouted the bridge in San Diego. It was about a 20-foot drop. Well, that felt realistic. To a 12-year-old kid could actually, jump off there and survive and everything. No. McG, we go up to this bridge that is up Angeles Crest that's got a 400-foot drop, and there's no water. And he's like, oh, I'll put water in there. Oh, I'll do this, and manicure it and everything. And sure enough, you go to the visuals and you're like, holy shit. But in realistic things, the guy would never take the kid there. He would never jump off of that thing. But this is the magic of McG. Yeah. And this is where that element comes in. And, that was kind of what Babysitter was all about. It was that turned up to 11, she goes into, and he wanted this fireworks to be able to blow her up underneath the house. And then he wanted to blow himself out, and we smoked him all up. So he was all singed up. And then what was so good about this movie is, he just survived that, and he lands, and then there's the next guy that try and kill him, right? And there's that guy that never no shirt. Like, why does he not have a shirt on?
Because he's Robbie Amell, and he never wears a shirt. The dude doesn't own a shirt, Shane.
Exactly. And then he's like, about ready to strangle him, and he hears like this sound, and he goes over, and the guy's egging his house, and he's like, well, you got to stand up to him, and it's like, what? The dialogue, that's the Tarantino. This is the weird thing that makes all these movies work, is because you get the suspense, you get the thriller, you get the horror element, but then you're laughing your ass off the whole time that you're not scared to death. And that is really a great kind of mixture.
For sure.
And I think that's what's so exciting, to find those sorts of directors who have that, who just kind of push these things. And Tarantino has been doing that really from jump. And again, that's what makes this film so fun to watch, because, again, going back to his style, where we got the different chapters, we're walking through it in a chapter storytelling style, but then to kind of like get to know these characters step by step before we really kind of put them all into the mix at the end, like get Christoph Waltz as Landa, like really getting to know that character. And then it's a right turn. And then suddenly it's like, well, let's spend some time with the bastards. And then it's another right turn. And we're like, with Michael Fassbender, as he's hanging out with Mike Myers, and we're setting the plan in motion. And it's so fascinating to kind of walk through his worlds. And like you were saying, like his passions come through, and it makes it so much more that exciting. The fact that it involves a movie theater, that we're talking about like these actual historical Nazi filmmakers like Riefenstahl, and we're actually getting like a history lesson,
right? I mean, she's shooting all that propaganda footage and everything. I mean, it was unbelievable, and tying that all in, and it being around the launch of this theater and the thing. It's like he's a master of storytelling and scripting. It's like he knows when to bring the roller coaster up, when it needs to fall, when it goes through a low hum, when it comes back up again. He just really knows the pacing. It's a fun ride, and you walk away also really thinking about life and thinking about things. So it's like, that's the best case scenario ever, when you walk out of a movie and it pushes your thoughts, and you come back and you think, wow, I never knew that whole era even existed. I love when they transport you to different places it was like, okay, here's a good story. So I get hired to shoot Drumline, and I had never worked with Charles Stone before, it was like my third movie or something. And my son is about ready to be born, and I get sent this. Well, before I even got the movie, I'm shooting in Kansas City, and I'm directing a children's hospital spot. And I'm directing, things are taking off. I'm like, okay, I did a couple narrative pieces, but now I'm back into commercials. It's awesome. I'm directing. Oh, this is great. And I get this call from Tim Bourne, the producer, and he's like, so have you read the script yet? And I go, Tim, I'm sorry, I'm in Kansas City. I'm working on this, directing this children's spot. I haven't had the time. And I don't know if I'm into this goddamn Saints Go Marching In bullshit, drumming, marching bands. That's what I said to him.
Be careful, Shane. You're shedding a little bit of your curmudgeon credibility. Right?
Well, at the time, that's what I thought,
Yeah, right.
I'm like, I don't know about this. And he goes, where are you? And I was like, Jesus. Okay, I'm in the Westin in Kansas City. I need your address and your room number. So I'm like,
wow.
Okay. So I give him all the information. He's like, all right, douche. I was like, whoa, okay. So I go and I direct the next day. I come back from the hospital and everything. And in my room is, back in the day when they had those AV carts where it had the cathode ray tube TV on top, and it had a little VCR and on the second shelf, right? And then all the cables dragging all around and everything. So that is in my room when I walk in, and it just says, play me.
Nice.
What the hell is this? So I pop it in and I hit play, and it is a video of the Senate, which was the featured drum line at A&T, just going off. And I was literally running to the phone. Yeah. And I called Tim and I go, holy shit. Oh, so all of a sudden you're in marching bullshit now. And I'm like, this is a subculture. I had no idea. This is amazing. I want to shoot this movie. And he goes, all right, we were boom. So I fly in and I meet with the director for the first time. And he's so excited to go show me his vision because he's already been scouting there for weeks. And he takes me to Clark, Atlanta. And it's a African-American, school. And it's kind of just behind the Georgia Dome, kind of, below Midtown in this kind of somewhat seedy area. And he takes me, and I'm envisioning. So once I signed on to this, I'm like, I'm reading the script, and they come out of the tunnel. Well, I'm seeing the USC Trojan Tunnel.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
I'm seeing that big hook, right, that they come into the Coliseum on. I'm like, oh, that's going to be amazing, And then the band room, I'm seeing the triple, double, quadruple layers, where all the bands and all they're playing, and the drum lines up at the top. And it's like got all the sound baffles and tall ceilings and everything. I'm like, oh, my God, this movie's going to be so visual. So we're walking down the hallway, and all the hallway is all this cinder block. And he opens these double doors to the music room. And the music room might have had 7'6" ceilings in it with 3 layers, 3 6-inch layers of rock. So the drum line heads were at the ceiling here.
Yeah.
So visual.
Right. Yes. So visual. And they got cinder block white walls with dark skin tones and this weird, bad kind of rudimentary, kind of graffiti, murals on the wall.
Sure.
Like, this is where the drum line's going to do. This is where we're going to do the little battle in here. This is where Dr. Lee comes in and leads the team and all. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And he goes, and then he goes, let me show you the tunnel. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Here it is, right.
Here's the tunnel. This is awesome. And he takes me into a hallway with ceiling and recessed floor tiles. And I'm like... And then I go, so where do they go out in the state onto the field? And he goes right through those double doors. And the double doors had the bar in the center, right?
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
even like a wide double. Oh, it was the goddamn bar was inside.
Of course, the award-winning band is going to get the double doors with a bar.
I'm like,
That's the most marching band thing you could say.
Yeah.
like, okay, all right. And then he goes, let's go out and see the field. So we go out to the field, and it's like, substandard, cement seating on one side, and then the other side are these kind of brick buildings in the distance, and there's power lines and shit everywhere. And he goes, all right, so you've seen A&T. What do you think? And I go, well, Jesus, Charles, I got to be perfectly honest with you. How depressing do you want to make this movie?
Oh my God.
I want the
Wow.
punchline to that story to be Charles was punking you.
Yeah, right.
Showing you these tiny offices and like, isn't this dramatic? I know we've never met, but wait till you see this pus white room.
Exactly. And trust me, that hallway, you cannot imagine what I was envisioning. I was envisioning those Trojans coming down there and their shadows on the wall. I put some big ass 18K down there and you see all the tuba shadows. I was envisioning all this in my head. And then it's a goddamn hallway that's like 4.5 feet wide with double doors and a bar in the center. So I'm like, holy shit, how am I going to make this exciting?
Yeah.
So I go to my gaffer and I go, all right, we're going to cut can lights and we're going to put them all the way down on the left and right side. So they do light, dark streaks. So you're going to have so when I see the band back there, they're going to have all that depth dimension, hot, dark, all the way down. And this was where, the big line of the movie, Dr. Lee comes around the cross, the corner, and he goes, halftime is game time, right? Well, holy crap. How can I make this exciting? I got, false ceiling tiles, fluorescence lights, and they're supposed to go out and do this massive, halftime show. And I was like, ooh, I got an idea. So Charles goes, what do you got? I said, what if he comes around the corner and he goes, all right, band, one sound, right? And he walks past camera. And I go, and then all of a sudden, this stick is going to come up and bifurcate the frame. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see this. I remember it was a 21 mil 240, and that stick comes up perfectly center. And then all of a sudden, the other stick goes, tack, tack, tack. And then, boom, they fucking come out like a goddamn, it was like a megaphone. And then all of a sudden I was like, holy crap, now I understand this tunnel. The sound that hit us was percussion, right?
Yeah.
And everyone was putting nose plugs,
Earplugs.
because they were bleeding out of their
bleeding.
They put earplugs in their ears because they're like, holy crap, that's so loud. I'm like, I got to hear this every single time because it is the greatest sound I've ever heard, right? And sure enough, every time I rip the things, I'm on the camera, whoosh, ka, 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 and I was like, boom. And these were the things that, once I understood the subculture, and Charles finally took me to the emotion of the scene of what this kid is going to go through and how and then I started to understand that subculture and understand what and how amazing these musicians are. And then I knew exactly what to do. But boy, that first scout day
took a minute.
Did it take a minute for me to regather myself?
All I can imagine is like the poor tuba players getting stuck in that damn doorway with the bar.
Right.
I finally
crouching, going sideways.
Because what was weird is that was permanent, right? Yeah. I go, how could you have put that? That's like, first off, probably a fire hazard or whatever. But all these huge stadiums were built for the '76 Olympics. So they
Okay.
didn't do any of the stuff that was,
Yeah.
they said
Throw it up
that
there as fast as they can.
exactly. They said the cement was still drying on all these stadiums when the people were in them. That's how quickly
Wow.
they were pouring those cements in those
Holy
stadiums.
cow.
Right.
Oh my God.
So I go, we have to cut that goddamn beam out of there. And sure enough,
No
I'll never
kidding.
forget the grip comes in with his sawzall and he's like, knocking the thing out of there. I said, they got to go double wide out of there. I can't have them go single file.
Yeah.
Because
No
I had
kidding.
this crane shot where I wanted to start low and the drum line and the players come out and then I wrap up to a top down,
Yeah.
And so I wanted to come out not like a piss stream, but some volume out of that thing,
Oh my
That
God.
is outstanding. That is
Fantastic.
an outstanding story.
So many great stories,
Man.
Shane.
Then you get to these points where, so that movie had a lot of these aha moments for me as a cinematographer, right? Because third, fourth movie, trying to figure it all out, trying to figure out how the prep process, how to communicate with the director. There's a lot of things that I'm trying to figure all out. And we come to the last kind of 10, 15 days of the movie, and it's the Georgia Dome, and it's the big Southern Classic at the end. And Tim Bourne was big on this, and he was really good with it. We did it for Drumline. We also did it for Mr. 3000. We were able to do these promoted extras, and we were getting 36,000 people to show up.
Wow.
Nice.
We got 36,000 on the first day and 24,000, I think, on the second day. And we gave away cars, we gave away TVs, everything to try and keep these people in the stand.
Yeah.
But by the time we, got everything that Charles wanted to get and the scope of it all and the spectacle of it, because if you don't take in all that, then the end has not as much meaning, right? You really got to show the performances of all the different bands and really show each one competing with each other, to tell that story and the weight of it all. Well, by the second day, we were very far behind, and they're like, Shane, we don't have extras for any of the drum battle. We don't have extras for any of this stuff. We've basically done what we can do. And I was like, what if we turn the lights off? And the producer goes, what are you talking about? I said, I'll put a 60 by 60 light box over center field. And I'm going to surround it with blacks. And I'm just going to nuke this beautiful soft top light down to the 50-yard line. And I'll take some egg strobes that you can get super cheap. I'll put them all in the stands behind them. And those strobes just fire every once in a while like it's flash bulbs.
Sure.
Then we bring in the sound design of the crowd, the roar and everything. And now we've put all the focus on the musicians in this drum battle. And it's not about the dude with the fluorescent green shirt in the background. It's not about the person, going woohoo. It's just about the artists and their excellence. And Charles Stone goes, oh, we're doing that.
Yeah. That shot,
as it should be. Yeah, it's great.
I'm looking at that shot which I think is part of that must have been that day of shooting where the bands walk together. You've got a camera low on the ground. I wanted
to do it like the Revolutionary War, right?
It's perfect. It's perfect. And you needed what, 20 people? There's like a cone of people that are in the stadiums right at that 50-yard line. You got 20 people and you've just simulated 35,000.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
Correct. And, it was kind of one of those moments where you were completely put in a box. You were not able to do, what is envisioned, what the script read. They play in front of this big stadium and all this kind of stuff. And so you take that and then you break it down to the very essential storytelling beats, and that's what made that scene so powerful. The whole time, Charles Stone told me, he goes, being in a drum line is being in the military. You walk in a specific way, you walk to the beats, you are in perfect lines. It's all about symmetry. So we wanted all the shots to have that left to right, that up and down, no diagonals, no, everything was military. And you know what was funny is like getting them all in a line, right, to be able to shoot down them. The first time, because I had never done this before, I was never dealing with drum lines. So the first time we're doing it and we're like, okay, number one, step out 1/4 of an inch. All right, finally I was like, there's got to be an easier way. Oh, a hunk of rope. So I hunk a rope, I tied it to a combo stand, and then I put it at the perfect angle to the lens, and all they had to do is that all the drums
Line
just
up.
And lined right to the thing. All right, rip
Turns
it out
out
of
they know how to do that.
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And it was like perfect, right? They just
Yeah.
touched their drum to the thing, and it was down line. So you got that perfect where you saw every drum, every stick. So when we did that drum battle at the end, I wanted the full-on Revolutionary War thing where they both come up, they stand. That was the stupidest thing in the world. Who the hell comes up and then, 20 feet away, you point them and you shoot them, and then no one's running, no one's hiding.
Wide of the eyes, yeah.
Who came up with this style of warfare?
I know.
But it works for the movie, though.
It works for the movie, yeah.
Oh, that's
and
awesome,
that's really
man.
what it all boils down to. Shane,
Exactly right.
So many great stories about all of these films that you've been a part of, and Inglourious Basterds, of course. Thank you so much for coming on here and talking with us about all of this and sharing these stories.
Absolutely. It was my absolute pleasure. I love these kind of things. And, I've been doing this for 30 plus years, and because of my crazy nature, I have stories that are very, very unique. So I love to share. I have a feeling
we've just tapped the surface.
Yeah, that's just it. We're scratching the surface.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Well, it's fantastic. You're online out there and the socials, right? People can find you out on Instagram, I believe.
Shane Hurlbut ASC on Instagram. Obviously, I created this massive filmmaking resource called the Filmmakers Academy. Yeah. If any parent out there is watching this podcast and is thinking their son or daughter wants to be a filmmaker, there is an option not to send them to Tisch or USC or Emerson at $70,000 or $80,000 a year. We do have an online resource that people have compared us to. 4 months at Filmmakers Academy is not even equal to 4 years at USC. So I try to kind of define the education. So imagine if you had a professor that you went to college, and every time the professor came in, he had a different story or something to show because he just did something prior to him coming in. So what Filmmakers Academy is imagine that you're watching me master the art of cinematography, and I'm taking you along on that journey. So as I shoot the perfect couple, I immediately come back and do a light quality masterclass on how I lit Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
How I took all these different foam sources and bounce sources and everything and fabricated them. I did a lot of night work on Way of the Warrior. So I come back and I launch cinematography masterclass, right?
Nice.
70 plus individuals shooting this over 4 days. And so it's like, it's almost, the greatest education from because it's tip of the spear learning that I'm immediately able to boil down and break it down where at a level they say I make it so easy and effortless to learn that they hardly ever have to go back and watch it again. which I thought, oh, that's a fail for me because I want people to stay on the platform forever. So we keep on making money. So maybe I should confuse it more.
Uncle Shane saying the quiet part out loud.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome, man. That's fantastic.
We'll definitely make sure we have links for all that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Fantastic
it's really
that you
good.
do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so
That's
much,
amazing.
man. Thank you for being
Yeah, it was
here.
absolutely wonderful.
Such a treat.
Thank you so much. Great questions. Great places we went, and I cannot thank you enough.
We'll have all of Shane's links in the show notes. Again, we appreciate you joining us here today. And for everyone else out there, we hope you like the show and certainly hope you like the movie like we do here on Movies We Like. Movies We Like is a part of the True Story FM Entertainment Podcast Network and the Next Reel family of film podcasts. The music is Chonk Clap by Out of Flux. Find the show at truestory.fm and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd at The Next Reel. Learn about becoming a member at thenextreel.com/membership. And if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, we always appreciate it if you drop one in there for us. See you next time.